There is a moment that almost everyone has experienced, even if they never talk about it. A moment when an ordinary day is interrupted not by something dramatic, but by a sentence. Someone says a few simple words, and hours later, while doing routine things, those words return. They appear while walking, while working, while sitting quietly. And the strange part is not that the words were impressive. It is that they felt personal, as if they had been spoken to a part of you that rarely gets addressed. I once heard someone describe this as the mind being gently tapped on the shoulder. Not pulled, not pushed, just noticed. Nothing in the day changed on the surface, yet inside something shifted. The words did not demand attention. They simply stayed. The mind replayed them, not out of excitement, but out of curiosity. Why did that sentence feel heavier than all the others? Why did it feel familiar? Carl Jung believed that the unconscious listens more carefully than we think. It stores what resonates and releases what does not. We walk through life hearing thousands of sentences. Most of them disappear, but a few settle in quietly because they speak the language of the inner world. They do not flatter, they do not impress, they recognize. And here is the thought that sets the tone for everything that follows. The words that stay with us are not the ones meant to be remembered, but the ones that remind us of who we are. Words have a unique way of slipping past the conscious mind and settling into deeper psychological layers where actions often cannot reach. Actions are visible and easy to judge, but words are invisible and interpretive. They invite the mind to participate rather than observe. When someone hears words, the brain does not just register sound. It searches for meaning, memory, and emotion almost instantly. This search happens below awareness, which is why certain phrases stay with us long after the moment has passed. A single sentence can awaken an old feeling, a forgotten desire, or a quiet fear without us knowing why. This is what Jung meant when he spoke about the unconscious responding to symbols rather than logic. Words are symbols, and the psyche is fluent in them. Unlike actions, words do not end when they are performed. An action is completed in time, but a word continues to echo. The mind repeats it, reshapes it, and connects it to personal experiences. Even neutral words can become emotionally charged, depending on who says them, and when they are not fixed objects but living impressions. The unconscious mind thrives on this openness because it allows interpretation. When a phrase feels personal, the psyche claims it and turns it inward. This is why a few honest words can occupy someone's thoughts all day, while grand gestures fade quickly. The unconscious keeps working on what feels unfinished, and words always leave something open. Words also interact with identity more directly than actions. When someone hears language that touches how they see themselves or how they wish to be seen, the unconscious responds immediately. It asks, "Is this true? Is this something I recognize in myself?" This inner questioning creates movement inside the psyche. Jung believed that personal growth begins when the unconscious is activated, not when it is instructed. Words can activate this process because they invite reflection rather than demand reaction. An action might impress, but words can challenge or affirm the inner narrative a person carries quietly. This inner narrative is powerful, and anything that touches it gains lasting attention. Another reason words reach deeper is because they are linked to memory and emotion in the brain. Hearing a phrase can bring back entire emotional landscapes from the past, often without warning. This happens because language is stored alongside experience, not separately. When a word matches an emotional pattern, the unconscious responds before the rational mind can filter it. This is why people sometimes feel something strongly, but cannot explain why. Words bypass explanation and go straight to feeling. Actions usually require interpretation, but words arrive already wrapped in meaning. The unconscious does not analyze them, it absorbs them. Words also allow projection, which is a key concept in Jungian psychology. The unconscious often projects inner content onto external stimuli. When someone hears a phrase that feels meaningful, they may project their own hopes or unresolved thoughts onto it. This makes the words feel deeply personal even if they were simple. This is not deception, it is how the psyche naturally works. The mind uses words as a surface to display its inner world. This is why different people react differently to the same sentence. The power does not come from the words alone, but from what they awaken inside the listener. Finally, words activate imagination, which is one of the main bridges to the unconscious. Actions show what is, but words suggest what could be. Imagination fills the space between what is said and what is felt. The unconscious lives in that space. It responds to suggestion, tone, and implication, rather than certainty. When words are spoken with sincerity, they leave room for inner exploration. That exploration continues quietly throughout the day in thoughts, memories, and emotional shifts. This is why words often stay longer than actions. They do not force meaning, they invite it. Flattery works on the surface because it aims at approval, but meaning works underneath because it speaks to truth. The human mind quickly senses when words are offered to gain a reaction rather than to express understanding. Compliments that are empty may feel pleasant for a moment, but they do not stay because they do not connect to anything real inside the listener. Jung believed the psyche is always seeking wholeness and recognition, not praise. When words carry meaning, they feel grounded and sincere. They do not try to elevate the speaker or impress the listener. Instead, they quietly acknowledge something that already exists. This acknowledgement feels stabilizing rather than exciting, and the unconscious prefers what feels real over what feels exaggerated. Flattery often focuses on appearance or performance, which are fragile parts of identity. Meaning speaks to character, intention, or inner struggle, which are more permanent. When someone hears words that reflect an inner quality, the mind pauses. It listens more closely because it feels understood rather than admired. This creates psychological safety. The unconscious relaxes when it is not being evaluated. Meaningful words do not demand a response, they simply land and settle. This is why they linger longer than praise. They are not competing for attention. They are offering recognition, which the psyche accepts without resistance. Another difference is that flattery depends on repetition to survive. It must be renewed constantly to maintain its effect. Meaning does not require repetition because it integrates into self-perception. Once a person internalizes meaningful words, they begin to hear them in their own inner voice. This is powerful because the mind trusts its own voice more than any external one. Jung emphasized that lasting influence occurs when something becomes part of the inner dialogue, not when it remains external. Flattery stays outside, waiting for validation. Meaning crosses the threshold and becomes personal, which is why it continues working long after the moment has passed. Meaning also respects the complexity of the human psyche. Flattery simplifies a person into a single positive trait, which can feel limiting even when it sounds kind. Meaning allows contradiction and depth. It can acknowledge strength alongside vulnerability without judgment. This feels honest, and honesty resonates deeply with the unconscious. The psyche does not want to be idealized. It wants to be understood. When words reflect complexity, the mind engages because it recognizes itself more fully. This recognition creates a quiet, emotional response that is more enduring than excitement. It does not rush. It stays present. Flattery often creates pressure because it sets expectations. If someone is praised for being a certain way, they may feel compelled to maintain that image. Meaning removes pressure by focusing on awareness rather than performance. Jung believed that growth begins when the individual feels free to explore rather than conform. Meaningful words encourage reflection, not obligation. This is why they feel lighter yet deeper. The listener does not feel watched or measured, they feel seen. This sense of being seen without demand creates trust, and trust allows thoughts to return to the moment repeatedly throughout the day. In the end, the mind does not hold on to what inflates the ego. It holds on to what aligns with inner truth. Meaning has weight because it connects to something stable inside the person. It does not sparkle briefly and disappear. It settles quietly and reshapes perception. This reshaping happens subtly without effort or intention. The person may not even realize why certain words return to their thoughts. They simply do, because they resonate with something unresolved or deeply familiar. The unconscious always returns to what feels meaningful, because meaning is how it organizes experience and understands itself. The human psyche is sensitive in ways people often underestimate. It listens not just to what is said, but to where it comes from. Authenticity is felt before it is understood. Performance may sound polished, but the unconscious quickly detects effort, intention, and strategy. When words are spoken to create an effect rather than to express truth, they carry tension. That tension may be subtle, but the psyche notices it. Jung believed the unconscious responds to what is genuine because it recognizes itself there. Authentic expression does not seek approval. It simply reveals something real, and that realness creates a sense of ease. The listener may not consciously identify it, but they feel calmer, more open, and more attentive. Performance asks the mind to evaluate, while authenticity allows it to relax. When someone is performing, the listener becomes an audience, even if quietly. That creates distance. The unconscious pulls back because it senses expectation. Authenticity removes that distance because it does not require response. It does not aim to impress, persuade, or influence. It exists on its own terms. This independence is what gives it weight. The psyche trusts what does not ask for validation because it feels stable. Jung often spoke about the importance of individuation becoming who one truly is. Authenticity reflects this process, and the unconscious responds with recognition rather than defense. Another reason authenticity resonates is because it mirrors inner truth. The unconscious is always holding material that has not yet reached awareness. Thoughts, emotions, and insights that exist without words. When someone speaks authentically, they often give language to something the listener has felt but never articulated. This creates a moment of alignment. The psyche recognizes itself in the words, and that recognition feels grounding. Performance rarely achieves this because it relies on external standards rather than inner experience. Authentic words arise from lived awareness, and that lived quality carries a different energy. The listener senses that the words are not borrowed, but owned. Performance also creates a subtle imbalance. It places the speaker above the listener, even unintentionally. Authenticity removes hierarchy because it is not trying to lead or impress. It is simply sharing. Jung believed true connection occurs when two inner worlds meet without masks. The unconscious is drawn to this because it longs for integration, not comparison. When authenticity is present, the listener does not feel measured, they feel included. This inclusion allows the psyche to open rather than protect. Performance often activates comparison, which keeps the unconscious guarded. Authenticity invites participation without pressure. The psyche also associates authenticity with safety. When words are genuine, there is no hidden agenda. Safety is crucial because the unconscious does not reveal itself in environments where it feels watched or manipulated. Performance often carries the risk of expectation or judgment, even if positive, authentic expression carries acceptance. The listener senses that they are free to be themselves rather than a role. This freedom is deeply appealing to the unconscious, which seeks wholeness rather than approval. Jung emphasized that psychological healing begins where acceptance replaces judgment. Authenticity communicates acceptance without needing to say it directly. Authenticity also lasts longer because it integrates into memory differently. Performative moments are remembered as events. Authentic moments are remembered as experiences. The difference matters because experiences shape identity while events pass through time. When someone encounters authenticity, the psyche stores it as a reference point. It becomes part of the internal landscape. This is why authentic words return during quiet moments. They are not tied to the speaker alone, but to the feeling they created. That feeling becomes familiar, and familiarity is powerful in the unconscious. It draws the mind back repeatedly. Performance often exhausts both the speaker and the listener because it requires maintenance. Authenticity requires none. It is complete as it is. This completeness allows the psyche to rest within it. Jung believed the unconscious is drawn toward balance, and authenticity offers balance between inner and outer worlds. When words align with inner reality, there is no split, no contradiction. The listener senses this harmony and the mind stays with it, quietly returning to it throughout the day. Not because it was impressive, but because it felt true. A simple phrase has power because it can reflect something a person has been carrying quietly inside without fully recognizing it. People often live with unspoken needs for understanding, reassurance, or meaning. These needs are not always dramatic, but they are persistent. When a phrase touches one of them, it feels strangely personal. Even if the words are ordinary, Jung believed that much of the psyche is shaped by unmet inner material waiting to be acknowledged. A phrase does not need complexity to do this. It only needs accuracy. When words align with an inner need, the mind reacts with attention because it feels recognized. This recognition creates a pause where the listener feels momentarily understood without having explained anything. The mind is always searching for mirrors. It wants confirmation that its inner experiences are real and shared. When a phrase reflects an inner need, it functions like a psychological mirror. The listener may not consciously identify the need, but they feel a sense of closeness to the words. This is because the unconscious recognizes familiar emotional patterns faster than the conscious mind recognizes logic. A phrase that mirrors an inner need feels like it came from inside rather than outside. Jung described this as synchronicity of inner and outer experience. When this alignment occurs, the psyche becomes attentive, and the words gain staying power. Inner needs are often simple, yet deeply rooted. They may involve being valued, being understood, or feeling seen beyond surface roles. A phrase that touches these areas does not feel flattering, it feels grounding. The listener may replay the words not because they were dramatic, but because they felt accurate. Accuracy has weight in the psyche. When something feels accurate, the mind wants to examine it, return to it, and place it within its inner story. This process happens quietly, without effort. The person may notice their thoughts drifting back to the phrase during unrelated moments because the psyche is integrating it. Jung believed that unresolved inner needs continue to influence behavior until they are acknowledged. A phrase that mirrors such a need acts as a signal. It brings unconscious material closer to awareness without forcing it. This gentle movement is important because the psyche resists pressure but welcomes invitation. A simple phrase invites reflection rather than demanding response. The listener does not feel questioned or challenged. They feel accompanied. This sense of companionship allows the mind to stay open and curious. The phrase becomes a companion to the inner process rather than an external comment. Another reason a simple phrase works is because it leaves space. It does not explain or define the need completely, it only points toward it. This openness allows the listener to fill in meaning with their own experience. The psyche prefers this because it values personal interpretation over instruction. When a phrase mirrors an inner need, it becomes flexible. It adapts to different moments and emotions throughout the day. This adaptability keeps it alive in the mind. The listener returns to it, not to analyze it, but to feel it again in different contexts. The simplicity of the phrase also matters because complexity can distract from resonance. Simple language passes easily through the conscious filters and reaches deeper layers. Jung often emphasized that symbols do not need explanation to be effective. They work because they resonate, not because they persuade. A simple phrase can function as a symbol of an inner need. It carries emotional truth without intellectual effort. This allows the unconscious to engage fully without resistance. The listener does not feel overwhelmed or manipulated. They feel gently touched, which encourages repeated inner attention. When a phrase mirrors a deep inner need, it creates a sense of alignment between inner experience and external reality. This alignment feels rare and meaningful. The psyche notices it because it suggests coherence in a world that often feels fragmented. Jung viewed this coherence as essential for psychological balance. The listener may not consciously name what the phrase reflected, but they feel more centered after hearing it. This centering effect draws the mind back to the moment again and again, because it represents a brief experience of inner harmony. Attention naturally moves toward places where identity feels recognized rather than evaluated. The human mind is constantly forming and protecting a sense of self, even when a person is not aware of it. Jung believed identity is not fixed, but shaped through reflection, both internal and external. When someone encounters words or moments that acknowledge who they are beneath roles and expectations, the psyche responds with focus. This focus is not effortful. It happens automatically because the mind feels less divided. When identity feels seen, there is less need to defend, explain, or perform. Attention settles there because it feels like home rather than a stage. The unconscious prefers spaces where it does not have to hide parts of itself. Most attention is driven by unresolved questions about the self. People think attention follows excitement, but more often it follows relevance. When something touches identity, it becomes relevant in a personal way. The mind keeps returning to it because it relates to how the person understands themselves. Jung described this as the ego seeking coherence with the deeper self. When words or experiences reflect identity accurately, they reduce inner friction. This reduction feels relieving. The psyche notices relief more strongly than stimulation. That is why attention lingers. It is not chasing a feeling, it is resting in recognition. Identity is formed through contrast and reflection. People learn who they are by noticing what resonates and what does not. When something resonates deeply, it signals alignment. The unconscious marks this alignment as important. Attention follows importance, not volume. Jung believed that the psyche organizes experience around meaning rather than intensity. When identity feels seen, meaning increases. The mind revisits the experience to integrate it more fully. This integration takes time and repetition, which is why attention returns again and again. The person may not consciously decide to think about it. It simply arises because the psyche is working toward understanding itself. When identity feels unseen, attention scatters. The mind jumps from thought to thought, seeking confirmation. But when identity feels acknowledged, attention gathers. Jung often spoke about the centering effect of self-recognition. This centering allows the psyche to focus without strain. Attention becomes steady rather than restless. This steadiness feels calm and absorbing. The person may find themselves thinking about the words or moment during ordinary activities, not because they are obsessed, but because the experience aligns with their inner narrative. The psyche returns to what supports its sense of continuity and wholeness. Another reason attention lingers is because being seen validates inner experience. Many aspects of identity exist quietly, without external acknowledgement. When someone encounters recognition, the psyche feels less alone. Jung believed loneliness is not the absence of people, but the absence of understanding. When identity feels understood, attention stays because the experience counters that loneliness. The mind replays it to sustain the feeling of connection. This replay is not emotional dependence. It is psychological integration. The psyche is weaving the experience into its understanding of itself and its place in the world. Attention also lingers because recognition strengthens self-trust. When identity is seen accurately, the person feels more grounded in who they are. This grounding reduces confusion and inner conflict. Jung emphasized that psychological health involves alignment between conscious identity and unconscious truth. Experiences that support this alignment become reference points. The mind returns to them when navigating uncertainty. Attention lingers not to escape the present, but to reinforce a stable sense of self. The experience becomes part of the inner map the psyche uses to orient itself in daily life. Psychological resonance lasts because it connects to deeper layers of experience rather than surface attraction. Attraction often begins with novelty and intensity. It captures attention quickly but fades as the mind adapts. Jung believed the psyche seeks meaning over stimulation. When something resonates psychologically, it aligns with inner patterns, values, and unresolved material. This alignment creates a quieter but more persistent presence in the mind. The person may not feel excitement in the usual sense, yet they feel drawn to return to the experience because it feels relevant to who they are becoming. Resonance does not demand energy. It holds attention gently, which allows it to endure. Finally, resonance lasts because it offers coherence. Attraction can be fragmented and situational. Psychological resonance feels integrated. It connects different parts of the self, thoughts, emotions, values into a single experience. This integration feels satisfying to the psyche. Jung viewed integration as essential for psychological balance. Experiences that support balance are preserved by the mind. The person may not consciously try to hold on to them, yet they remain accessible, influencing mood, insight, and perspective. Resonance does not fade because it is not dependent on intensity. It endures because it aligns with inner truth. When everything is understood together, it becomes clear that words matter not because they are clever or dramatic, but because they touch something real inside the human mind. What stays with someone is not attraction, performance, or flattery, but meaning, authenticity, and recognition. The psyche responds to what feels true and familiar to the inner self. Simple words spoken with honesty can awaken reflection because they align with unconscious needs, identity, and psychological resonance. This is why the mind returns to them quietly throughout the day. They do not force attention, they invite understanding. In the end, lasting impact comes from speaking in a way that respects the inner world, because what the unconscious recognizes as true is what it chooses to remember.